Welcome and good morning, children. Morning session, children. This is Unit 24, Biological Session, Environmental Science. So before we go into the lesson, let me see what are the learning objectives. What are you going to learn at the end of this lesson? After completing this lesson, you will be able to relate different aspects of environmental science, and you will be able to describe biogeochemical cycles. You can analyze the impacts of human activities on water cycle, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. You can correlate the adaptations of plants with the habitat, and you can explain the adaptations of bat and earthworm. Explain recycling of water, its methods and importance. And you can able to discuss the importance of water conservation as well as water recycling methods. So these are the learning objectives. Okay. So before we go into the lesson, can anyone tell me what is environment? Any idea, children? What is environment? The living and non-living organisms which is around us is called as or termed as environment. Okay. So nature has the power to refresh and renew. This was said by Helen Keller. So elements of nature continuously undergo changes and transformations. So environmental protection provides holistic knowledge about natural processes, effects of human intervention and solutions to overcome environmental problems. So environmental issues such as pollution, global warming, ozone layer depletion, acid rain, deforestation, landslide, drought and deacidification have gained major focus across the world. So these words are familiar to you all because from 4th standard you will be learning. Whenever you come in to the science lessons, you would have learned all these topics. Without learning these topics, you cannot learn science. So you will now all know very well about the topics given here, that is what is pollution, what is global warming, what is ozone layer depletion, what is acid rain, what is deforestation, landslide, drought and desertification. Okay, so these are the major problems what our nation is facing. The natural resources are recycled over and over again on earth for continued availability. So at the same time, it is also reminds us of our responsibility to reduce and restrain our activities that will affect the natural process. Okay, so to accommodate all these things, living organisms adjust themselves according to their habitat and changes in the ecosystem. Is that clear? So living organisms, that is we ourselves or the animals, plants, whatever that comes under living organism, adjust ourselves. Okay, so physiological and reproductive adaptations which help them to survive better and to withstand environmental conditions. So in this lesson basically we are going to deal about biogeochemical cycles, that is the adaptation by the plants and animals, water conservation and recycling of water. So what is biogeochemical cycle? So what is biosphere? First of all, what is biosphere? The biosphere is nothing but it is a part of the earth where life exists. So what is biosphere? It is a part of the earth where life exists. All resources of biosphere can be grouped into two major categories. Namely, this is 2-mark question, children. Okay, so define biosphere and the two major categories of it. So it has two major categories. One is biotic or living factors, which include plants, animals and all other living organisms. And other one is abiotic or non-living factors, which include all factors like temperature, pressure, water, soil, air and sunlight, which affect the ability of organisms to survive and reproduce. Okay, so this is an important 2-mark question. What is biosphere? Explain the two major categories. Okay. So this is not very simple question. You would have learned in the lower class itself about this. So based on this, we are going to see important biogeochemical cycles. So what are the important biogeochemical cycles? Water cycle, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. So these three cycles are the important biogeochemical cycles. So bio means life and geo means earth. Okay. So first we will see about water cycle. Okay, the water cycle. So what is water cycle? So when you see the picture, you can able to understand clearly what is water cycles, and this is also a very simple thing which you have learned in the lower classes. So we just have a glance on this. So what is water cycle? So water cycle is nothing but it is a hydrological cycle and is the continuous movement of water on the earth. Okay, so what is water cycle? It is nothing but a hydrological cycle which is the continuous movement of water on earth. So in this process, water moves from one reservoir to another by process such as evaporation. So all the processes are given here, such as evaporation, then sublimation, then transpiration, okay, condensation, precipitation, surface runoff and infiltration, during which water converts itself to various forms like liquids, solids and vapors. So first we will see what is evaporation. What is evaporation? What is evaporation? By seeing the diagram itself you can able to answer, and you have learned this in the lower class itself. So what is evaporation? It is a type of vaporization. What is evaporation? It is a type of vaporization where liquid is converted to gas. Liquid is converted to gas before reaching its boiling point. Okay. So water evaporates from the surface of the earth and water bodies such as oceans, seas, lakes, ponds and rivers. So what is evaporation? Evaporation is a type of vaporization where liquid is converted to gas before reaching its boiling point. So then we will see about sublimation. So what is sublimation? Any idea? What is sublimation? So it is a conversion of solid to gas. Solid to gas. It is a conversion of solid to gas without passing through the intermediate liquid phase. Okay. So ice sheets and ice caps from the north and south poles, the ice caps on mountains get converted into water vapor directly without converting into liquid. So the ice cubes converted into directly into gas, okay, without converting into the liquid form. So such type of conversion is called as sublimation. Then we will see about transpiration. So what is transpiration? What is transpiration? It is a process by which plants release water vapor into the atmosphere through stomata in leaves and stems. Okay, so transpiration is the process taken by the plants. Then what is condensation? It is the changing of gas phase into liquid phase. And the reverse, it is nothing but the reverse of the vaporization. It is nothing but the reverse of vaporization. The condensation is the changing of the gas phase into liquid phase, and it is the reverse of the vaporization. Then what is precipitation? What is precipitation? Due to the change in the wind or in the temperature, clouds combine to make a bigger droplets and pour down as precipitation. Precipitation is nothing but rain. Precipitation is what? It is nothing but rain. Okay. So due to condensation, due to change in the wind temperature, the clouds combine to make a bigger droplets and pour down as a precipitation. So precipitation includes drizzles, rain, snow and hail. So these are all come under precipitation. Then runoff. So what is runoff? As the water pours down, it runs over the surfaces of the earth, isn't it? So where the rainwater goes, it runs over the surface of the earth. It stagnates at some places, and it runoff's water combines to form channels, then rivers, lakes, and ends up into the seas and the oceans, isn't it? Then infiltration. What is infiltration? It is nothing but the precipitated water moves deep into the soil. Precipitated water moves deep into the soil, goes under the soil. Then it moves down and increases the groundwater level. So such type of process is called as infiltration. Then percolation. What is percolation? Some of the precipitated water flows through soil and the porous or fractured rock. So infiltration and percolation are two related but different process describing the movement of water through the soil. Okay, so it is given there, infiltration and percolation. All the topics whatever we have seen now, all the topics are given in page number 291. Okay, so You can go through all the topics. Then we will see what are the human impacts on water, soil. So major human activities that affecting the water cycle on land are urbanization, that is moving, people move from a village to the rural area. Okay, such type of group movement is called as urbanization. Then dumping of plastic waste on land and into the water, then polluting water bodies and deforestation. These are the major human impacts on the water cycle. That is why we get scarcity. Okay, then we will see what is nitrogen cycle. Page number 292. What is nitrogen cycle? So there also you have a diagram for the nitrogen cycle. So atmospheric nitrogen, so you can see here, so this is atmospheric nitrogen. So nitrogen, it is the important nutrient needed for the survival of all living organisms. So it is an essential component. Nitrogen is an essential component of proteins, DNA and chlorophyll. Okay, so atmosphere is rich source of nitrogen and contain about 78%. How many percentage of nitrogen is there in the atmosphere? 78% of nitrogen. So plants and animals cannot utilize this atmospheric nitrogen, so they can use it only if it is in the form of ammonia. So straight away plants and animals cannot use this atmospheric nitrogen. Okay, so they use the converted form of the nitrogen, like when nitrogen is in the form of ammonia, NH4. Ammonia formula is NH4, so there you have nitrogen. Then amino acids. Okay, then are nitrates, that is NH3. Amino acids are nitrates. So when nitrogen is in the form of ammonia or amino acids or nitrates, this nitrogen is used by the plants and animals. Okay, so many processes are involved in this nitrogen cycle are explained here. So we have nitrogen fixation, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification and nitrification, denitrification. So all the processes are given here. Okay, so we will see in short what is about that. Nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation is nothing but it is a conversion done by a number of bacteria and blue-green algae, that is cyanobacteria. Blue-green algae means cyanobacteria. Okay, so nitrogen fixation. What is nitrogen fixation? So nitrogen fixing bacteria living in legume root nodules. Okay, so leguminous plants like pea and beans have a symbiotic relationship with nitrogen. So we studied this in the world of microbes also. The important bacteria is Rhizobium, the bacteria that is responsible for this process, nitrogen fixation process is Rhizobium. Okay, so nitrogen fixing bacteria living in legume root nodules, that is Rhizobium, helps for this nitrogen fixation method. Okay, then nitrogen assimilation. How does this nitrogen assimilation takes place? Nitrogen assimilation. So plants absorb this nitrate ions and use them for making organic matters like proteins and nucleic acids. Okay, proteins and nucleic acids. So herbivorous animals convert plant into animal proteins, plant proteins into animal proteins. So which converts these plant proteins into animal proteins? Herbivorous plant animals. What is herbivorous animals? Yes, animals that feed on herbs, only on plants, are called as herbivorous animals. So that is given here, rabbit. An example is given here, rabbit. Okay, so when plant proteins converted into animal proteins with the help of these herbivorous animals. So carnivorous animals synthesize these proteins from their own food. Okay, so this is called as nitrogen assimilation. Then we will see about ammonification. So what is ammonification? What is ammonification? The process of decomposition of nitrogenous waste. Nitrogenous waste. Okay, so what is ammonification? Process of decomposition of nitrogenous waste by purifying bacteria and fungi. By purifying bacteria and fungi into ammonium compounds. Into ammonium compounds is called as ammonification. So what is ammonification? Process of decomposition of nitrogenous waste by purifying bacteria and fungi into ammonium compounds is called as ammonification. So these animal proteins are excreted in the form of urea, uric acid or ammonia. Okay, urea, uric acid or ammonia. So the purifying bacteria and fungi decompose these animal proteins, dead animals and plants into ammonium compounds. Then nitrification. So what is nitrification? Ammonium compounds formed by ammonification process are oxidized to soluble nitrates. So this process of nitrate formation is known as nitrification. The bacteria responsible for nitrification is nitrifying bacteria. So which is important? Here, nitrifying bacteria. The process of nitrification is done by the bacteria, nitrifying bacteria. Okay. So these are the important thing which you must know in the nitrogen cycle. So what are the topics so far we have covered? We have discussed about nitrogen fixation, then nitrogen assimilation, ammonification, then nitrification, right? And you have denitrification. What is denitrification? Free living soil bacteria such as Pseudomonas species reduce nitrate ions of soil into gaseous nitrogen. So what is denitrification? Free living soil bacteria like Pseudomonas reduce nitrate ions of soil into gaseous nitrogen which enters the atmosphere. Okay, so that process is called as denitrification. So the bacteria involved here is Pseudomonas. Bacteria involved here is Pseudomonas bacteria. Okay, it is called as denitrifying bacteria. So this is all about nitrogen cycle. So now we will see what are the human impacts on this nitrogen cycle. What are the human impacts on the nitrogen cycle? So human impacts, that is burning of fossil fuels, application of nitrogen, then carbon cycle. Okay. So these are the important human impacts. Fertilizers and other activities can increase the amount of biologically available nitrogen in an ecosystem. So nitrogen applied to agricultural fields enters rivers and marine systems. So it alters the biodiversity and changes the food web structure and destroys the general habitats. So what are the human impacts? Basic human impacts. Common basic impacts is burning of fossil fuels, application of nitrogen based on fertilizers and other activities can increase the amount of biologically available nitrogen in an ecosystem. Okay, so now we will discuss about carbon cycle. So far we have completed water cycle, nitrogen cycle. So now we will see about carbon cycle. So what is carbon cycle? So there is a diagram given there for the carbon cycle. So carbon, where does carbon occurs? Carbon occurs in various forms on earth, isn't it? So where does it occurs? Charcoal, you can get carbon from the charcoal, diamond and graphite. So these are the essential forms of carbon. So what are the three essential forms of carbon? Where do we get carbon? From the major source. What are the major sources? Charcoal, diamond and graphite. So combined forms of carbon include carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide and carbonates also. What is carbon monoxide formula? CO. Carbon dioxide is CO2. Okay. So all living organisms are made up of carbon containing molecules like proteins and nucleic acid. So the atmospheric carbon dioxide enters into the plants through the process of photosynthesis to form carbohydrates. So from plants it is passed on to herbivores and carnivores during respiration. So plants and animals release carbon into atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is also returned to the atmosphere through decomposition of dead organic matter, burning fossil fuels and volcanic activities. So it is clearly given in the diagrams how do carbon emitted in the environment, in the atmosphere. See, so carbon is released into the atmosphere where fossil fuels are burned like petrol, diesel and all. Okay, and this carbon is released into the atmosphere during respiration by the animals and plants. So when plants are eaten by animals, then also carbon is released. So carbon in the atmosphere is used in the photosynthesis to produce carbohydrates. It is used by the plants to produce carbohydrates. Okay, so carbon dioxide in decaying matter and waste materials. So like fossil fuels, that is coal and oil. So carbon dioxide in fossil fuels are coal and oil. Okay, so this is given in the page number 293. This is the diagram given for carbon cycle. So now we will see what are the human impacts on carbon cycle. Human impacts on carbon cycle. So more carbon moves into the atmosphere due to burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. So most of the carbon in the atmosphere is in the form of carbon dioxide, isn't it? So all the forms of carbon in the atmosphere will be in the form of carbon dioxide, that is CO2. So carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So by increasing the amount of carbon dioxide, earth becomes warmer. So this leads to greenhouse effect and global warming. Is that clear? So now we will see the adaptation of plants. Any feature of organisms or its part that enables to exist under conditions of its habitat. Habitat means living place. Habitat means living place, and that is called as adaptation. So any feature of organism or its parts that enables to exist under conditions, that is when we are ready to live under a proper condition, that is of its habit, that is called as habitat, and that is called as adaptation, where we change ourselves to live in that particular place. So on this basis of water availability, plants have been classified as based on the water availability. How do plants classify? They are classified into three types. One is hydrophytes, other one is xerophytes, and last one is mesophytes. So now we will see these three types of plants. What are hydrophytes? Hydro means what? Hydro means nothing but water. Hydro means what? Water. So plants growing in or near water are called hydrophytes. The plants which use water for its living, such plants are called as hydrophytes. Okay, so that may be free floating or submerged plants, like lives in lakes, ponds, shallow water, marshy lands, and marine habitat. Okay, so the challenges what these hydrophytes face are availability of more water than needed. Sometimes water may increase in the rivers, ponds, and lakes. So at that time, the living condition of these hydrophyte plants are very difficult. Then water current may damage the plant body. The running water streams may damage the plant body. And water levels may change regularly. Okay, during summer the water level is reduced, and the rainy season water level is increased. So that may affect the growth of the hydrophytes. And mainly buoyancy in water, that is balance, imbalance, buoyancy, water thrust. Okay, so that is not regular. As the water content keeps on increasing and decreasing, buoyancy is not regular in the water living habitats of these hydrophytes, like lakes, ponds, and shallow waters. Okay, so what are the adaptations of hydrophytes? Roots are poorly developed in the hydrilla or absent as in Wolffia. Roots are poorly developed as in hydrilla. Okay, so hydrilla has very poor developed roots, or absent as in Wolffia, or sometimes the roots are absent in the Wolffia plant. Plant body is greatly reduced as in Lemna. So this is another hydrophyte. Plant body, there is no plant body. We cannot see the plant body properly. Okay, the plant body is greatly reduced. Only you can see the outer part, that is the leaves. You can see only the leaves. The submerged leaves are narrow or finely divided. The example is hydrilla. So the pictures are given the same page. Let me see the picture. So you will get an idea when you see the picture. See, hydrilla. So hydrilla's root are poorly developed. Okay. Then you can see Wolffia. So Wolffia, in Wolffia roots are absent totally. Then this is Eichhornia, submerged leaves, and this is Lemna. So in Lemna, plant body is greatly reduced. Okay, so these are the hydrophytes. So what are the examples for hydrophytes? You can write hydrilla, Wolffia, Eichhornia, and Lemna. Then the fourth point is floating leaves have long leaf stalks to enable the leaves move up and down in response to changes in water level. Example, lotus. So lotus have long steep leaf stalks, long leaf stalks, so that the leaves move up and down during the increase and decrease of the water level. Okay, and air chambers provide buoyancy and mechanical support to plants as in Eichhornia. So this Eichhornia plant has wonderful buoyancy where the plant can be stable even though there is a change in the level of the water content. So swollen and spongy petiole is present in this Eichhornia. So now we will see about xerophytes. So xero means what? Xerophytes. Hydrophytes means water living plants. Xerophytes means, yes, plants that grow in dry habitat, okay, in desert condition are called as xerophytes. So what are the characters of the xerophytes? To absorb as much water as they can get from the surroundings. Then to retain water in their organs for very long time. To reduce the transpiration rate. To reduce consumption of water. So according to these conditions only these plants are grown in the xerophytes. Okay. So see the picture. What are the examples given here for the xerophytes? Opuntia and Calotropis. These are the xerophytic plants. Opuntia and Calotropis. What are the adaptations of xerophytes? We will see what are the adaptations of the xerophytes. They have well developed roots. So roots grow very deep and reach the layers where water is available as in Calotropis. So Calotropis has a very long root. It can grow till it reaches the water content. Okay, then it will absorb the water and it starts growing. Then they store water in succulent water storing parenchymatous tissues. Example Opuntia and aloe vera. So it stores water. Which plant stores water? Xerophytic plants. Which xerophytic plants stores water due storing parenchymatous tissues? Example Opuntia and aloe vera. They have small sized leaves with waxy coating. Example acacia. Okay, xerophytes possess small leaves which has a waxy coating. The example is acacia. In some plants leaves are modified into spines. Spines means small thorns. The example again is Opuntia. Some of the xerophytes complete their life cycle within a very short period when sufficient moisture is available. Xerophytes complete the life cycle within a very short period. It doesn't go for a longer period. It complete their life cycle in a very short period when it has a sufficient moisture content. Okay, now we will see what is mesophytes. What are mesophytes? Mesophytes are common land plants which grow in situations that are neither too wet nor too dry. Okay, neither too wet or nor too dry. So they do not need any extreme adaptation. It doesn't need too much of water or too much of dryness. So what are the adaptations of mesophytes? The roots of mesophytes are well developed and are provided with root caps. All these roots have a root caps. Roots are well developed. The stem is generally straight and branched. The leaves are generally broad and thin. Presence of waxy cuticle in leaves traps the moisture and lessens water loss. So waxy cuticle traps the water content. Okay, so it does not become dry. So the moisture and it will absorb the moisture and lessens the water content. The leaves have stomata which close in extreme heat and wind to prevent transpiration. So leaves possesses stomata which enclose in extreme heat and wind to prevent. So why the stomata is present in leaves? To prevent transpiration. Okay. So up to this we will end up this session. So what are the topics today we have seen? We have seen about biogeochemical cycles. Biogeochemical cycles involve water cycle, then nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. So we have seen all these cycles, and then we come to the topic adaptations of plants, where we saw the classification of plants like hydrophytes, xerophytes and mesophytes. So what are hydrophytes? Hydrophytes are the plants that live in water condition. The examples are like Hydrilla, Wolffia, Lemna. Okay, then we saw about xerophytes. Xerophytes are the plants which grow in dry conditions, and the examples are Opuntia and Calotropis. Then what are mesophytes? Mesophytes are nothing but common land plants which grow in the situations that are neither too wet nor too dry. Okay, so go through the topics whatever we have seen today. Thank you, children.